What is up, guys? Welcome back here to the Devy Royale. You know it's time to do another Reading the Room, and I am excited because it's my team. I get to be a homer today, the Michigan Wolverines, and we're going to be talking about one of the best position groups in college football, and that's their running back room. Their running back room is loaded like usual, but this year they have a special group of guys, not just Donovan Edwards and Blae Corum. We're going through every single player that can be relevant on that roster in that running back room, what they're like, full breakdown of that offense, and who we expect to kind of come out of it. And it might shock you who we think might be the best running back in that room when it's all said and done. So you know the deal. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you love Michigan, college football, or all of the above, you're going to enjoy this video right after the intro. All right, let's get into the Michigan running back room. Let's talk about what we came here for. But we're going to talk about their offense last year. Their scoring offense was 6th in the nation, which is really, really good in terms of what we were looking at, 40 points per game. Total offense, again, top 25 team. Obviously, you like to see that yards per game go up a little bit more. That was more because of their passing attack. When you see that, just not good enough, right? Passing attempts 113th, passing percentage 120th. However, J.J. McCarthy has developed, and I think there is going to be a development there. Listening to a lot of different stuff like the Cover 3 podcast, they talked about Michigan quarterback room and develop him in there. But this isn't that kind of a video. We're going to be talking about the running backs. Rushing attempts, rushing average is what you like to see there. 13th and 12th in the nation. Last year as well, Michigan's offensive line won the Joe Moore Award. And that's given to the nation's best offensive line. That's 2 straight years. Now, they have a couple departures this last year to the NFL, but they've talked about this line actually might even be better than it has been in 2 years, that they think that these pieces are together, that this could be the best offensive line we've seen with Harbaugh. That's exciting, and that should make you really excited about the running back room, right? So let's get into it. First, guys, Blae Corum. What is there not to say about Blae Corum? This kid was absolutely phenomenal last year, 1,400 yards, 18 touchdowns. Had that injury at the end, obviously against Illinois. Didn't play against Ohio State, really. He got out there for a series and had to shut it down. But he would have been invited to the Heisman, I believe, the Heisman ceremony had he been able to finish the year out. I think if he had a big game against Ohio State, then if he could have kind of came out and won the Big Ten, and then when we're looking at that, I think that he would have been there. 4-star kid, we see that. Blae Corum is that guy. Now, is he healthy? What's that going to look like, right? He didn't go to the NFL draft, so he's coming back there. So he had offseason surgery, but it looks like he's on the track to return, so that's a good thing. Now, as far as what he does well, I think his vision is top-notch. I think his vision is the best I've seen from that position at Michigan. And, hey, I'm a Michigan truther, right? So we're talking Mike Hart all the way back. Those are my guys, and I love that area. But I love watching Blae Corum run. I think for me, his vision is patience. He does a very good job behind that offensive line. He knows where to move. He knows where to cut. He knows how to read them. And I think he's scheme versatile in terms of what he can do. I think zone gaps, and I think he has that ability to kind of run inside and out. I think he has enough athleticism and acceleration to get to the outside. I don't know about the long speed, but overall, I love that. And the thing I didn't put on here, this dude's freaking got heart. I know people are going to laugh about that, but he's got it, in terms of what he can do from a prospect perspective. Now, areas of improvement, I mean, he's not the biggest guy, right? So we're not talking about the size thing. I mean, he's built. I'm not sitting here looking at my fat ass, right? But again, size, I think, is a concern when we're projecting to the NFL side. Long speed, again, I don't know, when you watch him play, it's just he gets caught from behind. And I think that's one area that, now, how much does that really matter? I think that's the question we need to ask ourselves when we're looking at just in general, how much does the NFL really care about that if we're talking about that? But as far as college goes, he's going to be just fine. He can compete. We've seen him do that. And then the injury. He's got to come back from that injury. What does that look like? Will it take away from some explosiveness? I think those are the things to watch when you talk about Blae Corum. Now, next kid on the list, Donovan Edwards. And I think people forget sometimes that he was the running back 2 of his class. And 5-star kid, right? When he came here. And the thing I love about Donovan is that we had one of our worst years in 2020. And this dude said, I'm staying and I'm going to Michigan, and don't root for us when we're back up on top. And I love that about him. Last year, we really saw him kind of take over for somewhat. He had a hand injury that kind of limited his receiving. So you see his kind of receiving numbers, but he is one of their best receivers. And I would love to see him get used more, maybe in the slot and kind of moved around. but he's been phenomenal, right? He was a phenomenal runner. Obviously, he had the big game against Ohio State that we love to talk about, but very consistent. I think that with Corum there, I think that limits his ceiling a little bit. But I personally think Donovan Edwards is probably the best running back in this room in terms of just an NFL prospect. I think that he really can be a sleeper when we're talking about prospects in that 24 class. What does he do well? I think receiving is the first and foremost. This kid can catch. Obviously, last year with the hand injury, he wasn't there, but this dude's there. I think that I think he's going to hit 1,000 yards. I think he is the best receiver on this roster, if I had to be honest with you guys. I think his speed is there. This kid burst. We saw it again. The Buckeyes saw it last year. Able to kind of take that out there and go. And him and Corum do have a very good, lightning and kind of like thunder and lightning a little bit. I do think Corum does have a little bit more lightning than people give him credit for, but he is definitely that lightning, right? And he's got good burst. Like, he gets to that line very well. He's gone. Like, there's no one that can catch him in that second level if he sees a gap. Those are the things that you really like about him. Areas of improvement, I think between the tackles, I thought there was inconsistency a little bit last year. Remember, I've watched every single game of these guys. The thing with Edwards is, a lot of times there's times where it flashes. He's like, oh man, he had that vision and he kind of got in between that tackles and everything there. But then there's times where, he runs in the back of his lineman. There's times where he misses his hole and he's able to kind of get out of it because of his acceleration and all that. But there is definitely room for improvement there. And the size mantra is not so much, height, but it's his weight. If we're talking NFL prospects, you'd like to see him improve that size, get up to 210, 215 maybe. I don't know if he can, but there is a mark for us. I mean, he could have like that Jahmyr Gibbs type profile, right? Gibbs just went top 12 in the NFL draft. Why can't Edwards in terms of what we're looking at the next level? Now, let's get into the deeper version. CJ Stokes, who I think is one of the more underrated running backs of this class on this team too. And now CJ came in. He's just that hard worker. 3-star running back, 56. Last year, 273 yards. I really like CJ. I think that he could have a big sophomore campaign. I think the thing with him, he really developed a lot. I know he's the running back 3, but he had some, bad moments. Fumble against Maryland last year, but they're going to utilize him. I think Stokes can be utilized if they use, Edwards in the passing game. I think Stokes can be back in the backfield. I think if they got to, spell Corum a little bit, keep him healthy, CJ Stokes could start in a lot of rosters out there. And I think that's what excites you about him. I think he's a competitor. He's going to put his head down. He's going to bull rush your ass. He's going to get right through you. Downhill runner. I think he has that. And I think he's an explosive back. Like, I love that about him. When he came out there, he gave defenses a little bit of a change of pace. Downhill, explosive, competitor. Those things stand out about CJ. I think he's very underrated. The areas that you want to see him get a little bit better. Receiving, like, can he kind of step up for them? And then this is projecting a little bit. After Corum leave and after Donovan Edwards leaves, can CJ be that next guy and kind of show this offense that he can be that receiving guy? Will he be able to handle the usage? And can we see more usage from him? Will he kind of elevate it, not make those mistakes, right? So fumbling and those other things. And then the other thing that the other part of his game that needs to improve, and this is just based on the 247 reports I've read and the spring and the coaches and all that, pass blocking. They want him to improve his pass blocking, and he's got to do that if he wants to stay on the field. Now, especially at this season, as a running back 3, you can't get your dude, you can't get JJ blown up. Like, you can't if you want to be out there in those pivotal moments, and especially if you're spelling the guys ahead of you, coaching staff's got to trust you. Next guy. And again, we're going to go through these a little quicker now. Kalel Mullings, I love this guy. I just wanted to put outside linebacker 15 because I thought that was badass on a running back video. 4-star kid. He's the do-it-all guy, right? Like, so he's transitioning basically from defense to running back. And you're going to see him in short yardage situation. He's a load, 6'2", 232. So he's going to be that short yardage kind of guy, especially when they go power and they're just looking for those yards. He's just that. But I love him. I love it. He's a Michigan guy, right? If we're talking about the Michigan running back, we got to put Mullings on here. Next guy, Dunlap is another one that I think that is going to push for carries a little bit. People forget running back 15 of his class, 4-star kid, 6', 217. There is times that I think that he has shown that. I wanted to put Dunlap on here. He's got an uphill battle. I'm surprised he actually hasn't transferred because I do think that his talent outweighs maybe some of the usage that he's gotten there. I know the coaching staff really likes Dunlap. So Dunlap could be one of those guys that we talk about like, oh, he kind of popped off. And maybe next year he gets in that rotation, right? If those two big guys leave, we're talking Corum and Edwards, Dunlap can be right there with Stokes and kind of be that 1-2 punch as well. After that, they have a couple freshmen here that we want to talk about. When you're looking at this, Benjamin Hall is a stud. I talked about Benjamin Hall almost last October, I think. And I got some shit for it because he didn't really play his senior year. He got a little bit in trouble, but he came out in the spring game and looked really good. And I think Benjamin Hall is that guy that, my car, all those guys really love this kid. 5'10", 225. They're diamond in the rough. I think he can be that short yardage guy, but he does also have kind of that speed. I think that the coaching staff likes him. I think when you're talking about him, what was he able to do in the spring game? I think he might get a little run this year. I think there is a chance that he has that. So that is the area that you like, and I think Hall is the guy to want if you're in Devy. And in Cole Cabana, Cole is one of those guys. He's a smaller guy, 6', 180, and I do think they're going to use him more as a receiver. I think Cole can be kind of that playmaking kid, that receiving kid. And I think that is what Cole's role is going to be. He's not, but bringing him and Hall together, it's a very good 1-2 punch. I just get Sam McGuffey, flashbacks, PTSD as a Michigan fan. I hope Cole can bust out of that Sam McGuffey role. I was a huge McGuffey guy, and then we know how that transpired, didn't we, Michigan fans? But Cole could be that guy, that 1-2 punch with Hall. And again, he's running back 21. He does have good tape, so that would be what you'd have to want to see from him. Now, after that, when we're talking about the overall outlook of this roster, when you're looking at it overall, quarterback room, I think JJ is going to take a big step this year, has a very good coaching staff around him. I think that he elevated his game towards the end of the year last year. Biggest thing with JJ is you got to stop making so many damn mistakes. Don't, trust your arm, but don't trust it too much. Have better accuracy mid to deep. I did a whole JJ video where I compared to the Matthew Stafford on this channel. If you want to go take a look at it, I thought it was pretty good. So just give you an idea there. They have Jack Tuttle there as a grad transfer. Davis Warren. I like Alex Orji a lot. I like Alex. I think he can be that fun Anthony Richardson type role in the Wildcat. So be on the lookout for that. Wide receiver room is always a question mark. We had some transfers out. We talked about Andrew Anthony. We lost some guys. So what's next? I think Roman Wilson can step up in that room. I still like Darius Clemens. I still like Cornelius Johnson. So those are the guys to kind of look at. But again, like I said, Donovan Edwards is going to get some run there. And in the tight end room, there's a lot of love out there for Colston Loveland right now. Colston Loveland's kind of that sleeper. You saw Schoonmaker kind of get drafted by the Cowboys, got that great day 2 capital. They're talking about Colston being that guy. I like AJ Barner. They're very solid there, right? But in reality, we know this offense is going to do, okay? Run heavy, and then JJ's just have to open it up a little more. And if he can open it up a little bit more, our offense might be better in 2023. And I said R because, I'm a Wolverine. It might be better in 2023, and that should scare people because I do think that, we could have a better roster this year. And then, like I said, the offensive line is already stacked as well. Now, as my prediction for who I feel like could take over this room, I think it's Donovan. I think I love Blake, and this is not a hate of Blake, video. I do think Donovan can step up in the receiving and rushing game. I think he can lead this team in total yards, in my opinion. And I do think that he's the better NFL prospect. I love them both, and I hope they both crush the heck out of Ohio State when we play them, and Penn State, obviously the two teams that we want to beat. That have the top 10 teams, Michigan State too, but we don't talk about little brothers like that. But Donovan Edwards, I think it can be that guy that steps up for us and really kind of elevates this offense, especially if they use him there. And I think I have a high hopes for Donovan Edwards. I really do. I know Bud Elliott from the Cover 3 podcast talked about some fun Heisman votes for him in terms of like his odds. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think Donovan steps up. Regardless, I do believe that this is the best running back room in the country. I think from top to bottom, from freshmen that we mentioned to Dunlap, who I think could start on some teams. Obviously Stokes and those guys there, Mullings, those guys are really good. I think this might be the best running back room we've seen in Michigan for a long time. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that like button before you leave. It does help. Give me the comments. Let me know what you think. What do you think about Michigan? Do you think we can kind of go back, win the Big Ten again, get 3 in a row against the Buckeyes, and go back to the college football playoffs and redeem ourselves from that TCU loss? Let me know what you think. I'll see you guys later.